Hello, beautiful people, my beautiful rejects out there. How are you doing? Facing that rejection and living another day. I am your ambassador for rejection himself, Gustavo Victor Carr, your intuitive life coach, and you're just all around crazy person. And today I have one of my closest friends in the entire world, the incredible, incomparable Candice Coke joining me today.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
Oh my God. This
So
is
that's
amazing.
how we first connected. That was our thing. Or
That
like,
was okay. Uh-huh.
literally, that was like the first thing. Candice is an incredibly accomplished dancer, actor, singer, songwriter. I mean, what else? Activist, animal lover,
Mhm.
human being, girlfriend, like, I mean, diver. The list could go on and on and on. And it would have to be that long of a list for her to be that close to me because I'm that big of a person. not, not just the head nods. Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. But today I wanted to have my incredible friend join me to have another conversation of what we do here, which is talk about rejection and reflection,
Mhm.
turning rejection upside down, using it as a tool of positivity to push us forward in our lives. It is something that has been a key tool for me, especially being rejected for over 32 years in the career that I do. And then outside of that, also being a human and being rejected
Yeah.
in that sense as well. So I brought the lovely Candice here because she is such an accomplished human being that I thought it'd be a wonderful thing for her to share some of the pivotal rejections in her life that have shaped her to be
Mhm.
Candice Coke.
Mm. What a good question though, because I think we think about those things as they happen, and you're like, that happened to me and I didn't get the thing, or that person didn't love me. And we look at it in those moments as being this devastating thing that we thought we needed slash wanted. And then now when you look back at the whole picture, you're like, well, that wasn't meant for me. Thank God that didn't happen. You know what I
Right.
mean? So, I mean, we can talk about relationships, we could talk about jobs, we can talk about um, family. We can talk about being a woman of color in this country. All those things are real, and they come in all forms of rejection and
Absolutely.
reflection. So, I mean, where does one start?
Yeah. I want to know, like, what's the first one that sticks out to you
First thing that sticks
at
out
this
to me.
phase in your life? Family, career, any of it. It's all
I
fair
think
game. That's the whole point.
I think the thing that sticks out for me the most, to be honest, has always been, listen, I am Jamaican and Polish, and I'm so grateful for my heritage and my background and for the parents that raised me and the culture that I got from both sides of my, you know, very diverse families. But I still walk amongst this world feeling like I'm not good enough at times. And like, I think that rejection has been the thing that's molded me from a little girl to now. And I think it's the deepest layer of rejection because that's come out in relationships in terms of like my first marriage. I remember him telling me that his father said, "Well, it'd probably be better if you married a Latina or a white woman because it would be better for the family." And I don't know why he told me that, but of course he did. But I remember that feeling and going, "Oh, that's horrible.
Horrible.
Your dad said that about me? Like that feels like crap." You know? And I've dealt with that, most of my life as a youngster in a small town growing up and not really fitting in. And I think, kids liked me. I was cool. I was weird and athletic and I made my own clothes and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I was a little bit of an oddball to start. But because we're not taught to embrace the weirdness in people, therefore rejection was the first thing. Like, you're not cool. You're weird. We won't sit with you in the cafeteria, right? That's the beginning. Those are the beginning stages of not feeling like you belong, you
What
know?
was it? Do you remember what it was specifically that they thought was not cool or weird about you, so they didn't wanna sit by you in the cafeteria?
Yeah, I think the fact that like, yeah, like one, me and my sister were like the only interracial kids in that town.
Right.
Like, and my sister was really, 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 really smart. So she fit into
Was, still is.
still is. Yeah, really,
Yeah.
so my sister fit into a category of a certain demographic where she was accepted because she was so smart. And it just made sense. And
Mhm.
I was an artist, right? So, when you're in like junior high school, they're not looking for the artist that's interesting. They're looking for the jock, the smart kid, the cool kid, or the really pretty kid or
And
guy.
what kind of demographic was it besides it was basically all Caucasians?
It was heavy African American,
Uh-huh.
heavy like there was a very big Jewish community, and then there was that Irish Catholic community. I believe we had like 3 Asian kids that like were in my class and like a couple of Latinos, but like, that all, but just being the mixed race was very hard for people to understand. Listen, I'm a little bit older than most of you guys think, but at that time, it wasn't like cool to be interracial. It
Right,
wasn't,
right.
you know?
Yeah. That's the part that it's one of the many reasons why you deserve your flowers, and that's what this whole thing is about, is the fact that you weren't brought up in a space that was open and receptive when it comes to family, friends, career, everything. You
Right.
innately are different. And in the time period of which you grew up, that difference was a lot different and larger, like on a larger, grander scale
It is
than it
now.
is today.
Very different.
And the things that people talk about today of trying to figure themselves out and heal from and gain acceptance from is a different energy. It's a different conversation. It's just imagine being Candice Coke, who is this beautiful, mixed raced, funny, charismatic, out there human being. And you have the 3 demographics of what you spoke of. And in that time and space, there wasn't a representation of you in any of those things.
There really
So
wasn't.
it's foreign,
When Halle Berry came out, I was like, "Oh my god, thank God."
Right, right.
There's not a person like, Lisa Bonet was also a big, I mean, she wasn't biracial. I mean, I think she was actually. Um,
But
and
she was on that same spectrum as you. She was an artist. She was light
I
skinned.
was
She was
like, "Oh,"
beautiful. Like,
and she was also weird and bohemian, and I was like,
that's what I mean. Yeah,
"Oh, it's
yeah,
okay to be this and not, like, and mix it up a little bit." So I think that built my resilience as a youngster going, "Yeah, maybe they don't like me, but, like, I'm still gonna do me," and I found my way, and I found my way in other avenues of my life. So, being the weird kid, and I say weird loosely because, like, weird is, what does that mean? I made my own clothes. I was in a poetry class, but I was in a poetry class, and it was all grades. We were, like, from ninth to 12th in this one poetry, studio that we worked in. I went on my lunch period as opposed to doing it in a class. I never wanted to be in lunch because nobody wanted to sit with me. So I was like, I'll take another class. But in that class, this person was on the swim team and that person was on the tennis team. And we all kind of wrote poetry, but talked amongst ourselves. And I was like, well, maybe I should join the swim team. And then I found a way to be proactive by learning how to dive. I was the only diver in my school. Now you've got this one person who takes rejection or feeling like a loner and turned it into an opportunity to create an avenue for myself to get a scholarship to NYU. Like, because I was so alone, I was like, well, what am I going to do with my time to find something fun to do, to maybe be accepted in another space? So
but yeah, you didn't take an easy route to be accepted in a common space. You still chose to do something that people didn't understand, and you wanted to bring something new to the space. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah, I tend to do,
resilience. You do that. Like, I don't know if
yeah.
you pat yourself up on the back enough for, innately being that courageous in that
You know,
way.
it's an interesting conversation because one can look at me now and go, what does she have to complain about? She's not been rejected. She's got these things lined up now, and or I don't, but it might look like that to some people. But at the same time, I can sit here and go, I'm sure people have had it much worse. Kids get bullied all the time. People go out in the world and might not have the finances to fit in with friends that have money. All that is a different form of rejection, right? Whether it be self rejection or rejection from society. And I think that, like, yeah, I'm resilient, but I'm also blessed in a lot of different areas. So maybe that helped me become resilient at the same time. Because I feel like there's a lot of people that get rejected and that turns into depression. It turns into self-doubt. It turns into giving up on your dreams and your goals. And that is a real thing for a lot of people. I've been there too, you know. I've been there in a time where everything felt like it was swept from under the rug for me, whether it be being cheated on, divorce, a manager dropping me, you know, putting time and effort into this industry that we love so much, and then going, oh my God, none of it means anything, you know? And then I hope you come to a point in your life where you're like, surrender and see what happens, or give up and go into a dark hole, you know? So when those two
Yeah.
things happen, I was like, I'm just going to surrender and I'm going to see what the universe wants for me. Now, with that being said, I also know that I have tools back here that have helped me stay there, you know? And, you know, with all the rejection, when I look back at it now, I'm like, thank God 9 out of 10 of those things happened to me. 9 out of 10.
Right. We're still gonna leave that one open because, it
There's,
could change
yeah,
one day.
like,
Yeah.
that
Who
shouldn't have.
knows?
Yeah, who knows?
Yes.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's so fascinating because, yeah, if you just look at you, right, or just like if without knowing you, you would feel exactly how you thought, like, oh, what has she had to overcome, or what is she doing? Especially this day and age, like you're in the pocket right now. Your career, your everything. Our business is very specific when it comes to looks per se, right? I mean, so everything, your age range, look, you're in the pocket for the way the energy of our industry is moving. There's no doubt about that.
Mhm.
Um, but people don't realize that your pocket didn't exist for a really long time.
Right.
My pocket still, I don't think, has really even existed yet. And I've been doing this for 32 years. People
I
don't
know.
realize those things. It's a business. There are certain
Trend.
things.
It's a trend. We going
There's are there are trends, and the trends are brought about by the network of marketing that is happening in current events, right? That's how it works. That's the reflection of the world, our entertainment industry. So it's just so important to know, like, the whole point of this is just to have a conversation with people and be like, oh my God, I can't believe they are who they are today, and
Mhm.
they are just as human as me.
That
They
sounds
had to go through the same exact rejection, aka expectation and letdown, that I've had to consistently over and over in life. And from
yeah.
you specifically, I would love to know what was it inside of you that, because you, like, not everybody is able to be like, I don't fit in, I'm still going to succeed. And
Mhm.
yes, I understand that you said that it's like your circumstances that were helpful in that, but I dare to say that it's an innate trait inside of you. Have you?
I would say that that is I think the gift that I've been really blessed with, and I think it's the gift to, um, whatever room I'm in, even if you don't like me or you do like me, I think and I hope that I have a sensibility to create warmth to open up someone's, you know, expectations of a person, change their minds. I've always been the person in the back of my mind going, I'm just going to change their mind. I'm going to do the best I can. I'm going to change their mind.
You've
Because,
had to since you were a kid. You didn't
uh,
have to. You've had to since you were a kid.
yeah, yeah, like show them another side of me because I think people put. I'm not. I don't think I know. We put people in boxes. I do it. You do it. The world does it. Maybe to different degrees. You put someone in a box. You go, oh, that person is this, so they must be poor, or they must be uneducated, or they must be. And then I'm like, grace and patience. You change their mind and you surprise them. And then maybe, just maybe, there's an element where they go, I want to look at things a different way.
Yes, absolutely. But even in those moments, even in those circumstances, when you want to do that because that is your purest intention, that is your heart's desire, you'll still face rejection from somebody who isn't going to receive you.
1,000%. But I did my best.
Boom.
And I think that that's the most important thing. as a woman in this world now, no matter how I show up, I make an effort to show up as my best self in these
Right.
moments. That's the only thing I have control over. And I mean, like you want to talk about rejection, as you know, we're actors. We audition for things all the time, and we're thankful for that. Thank God we've gotten to a place where we get to have those opportunities. But then you get the thing where you're like, I'm so great for this. This is so mine. I'm so there's no way. And then you're like,
Nope.
wah, and I don't even think those things feel like rejections anymore. I think I'm smart enough to go, of course, it just wasn't right for this project, or there was another person, or but back in the day when I was in New York, and I remember Girl Fight was one of the big first almost breaks that I had. Girl Fight was a movie I was up against Michelle Rodriguez, and nobody knew who she was. She wasn't even an actor at the time.
That's what started her. That's what broke her.
That's what started her. And we were standing in a room side by side, and they were like, you, her, I don't, And we left, and then we got a phone call the next day. And I remember she got the part, and I was like, oh man, that was such a cool script. And then when you see how much it blew up and how her career went to like, it weighs on you for years, and you're like, that could have been me. That could have been my career. That could have been my life. That could have been, but like, it's not my life. It was not meant to be my life. That was meant for her.
Yeah.
And I can see that now,
Yes. And it's easy to say it, but it's like now, but it takes a lot of,
15 to 20 years later, it doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
10 years, I'm like, God damn it,
100. I mean, my peers I grew up with, since I was a kid, I've been in the entertainment industry in Hollywood and Los Angeles. I mean, my peers, most of them are very well accomplished. They are very much at the top of the game. And I think they are still surprised that I've had great moments in my life for sure, in career moments and all, and especially in my childhood. I was really successful. And I think no one expected me not to be there yet, along with my damn self.
Yeah.
And I'm just, like you said, what do you do? And I think it's, once again, tying it back to the rejection, and reflecting on it, it's like, yeah, you weren't meant to get that. That was Michelle Rodriguez's journey in time and point, that actually the tonality of that film has catapulted her to such a specific line of work that she has been able to really ride for her career.
1,000%.
I don't know her personally, but what I gather intuitively from her too is like, that was perfect for her in so many ways, that she can be this person. She can be authentic, I think, as much as possible. The industry's tricky. They like you to play roles in life and off.
So young when that opportunity came up. Like, I think also, like, when I look back in hindsight, like, I think I was I was good at what I was doing, but like, I wasn't ready. I was not ready. If I did that film, I would have been struggling along the way. It might have been too fast and furious, pun intended. Like, for me, as like the rise, you know what I mean? Like,
more furious than fast. Yes.
More furious than fast. But like, you're absolutely right that like her journey, that trajectory was for her, and she authentically was who she was in that experience. But
she still is today.
But I also think moments like that, even 10 years, when that pain in your stomach, you're still like, man, it drives me to work harder, to be more of an individual.
How do you use that to drive you instead of to debilitate you? How do you use it as momentum, as opposed to putting the brakes on and just staying at that light, and being that person that it turns green a million times, but they can't press go. They can't hit the accelerator.
I think it's like, imagine you were running a track meet for the Olympics and you came in second every time. You just work harder. I mean, you actually said something to me a couple months ago, and I was like, oh, there is more work to do. There is more work to be done. There is more of a leap of faith to jump into work with these days, like not taking things for granted, not getting complacent, not getting too comfortable. Yeah. And if you are an Olympic athlete and you want to be the best, you got to keep practicing. You got to keep going. You got to keep going, because luck, perseverance, stretching your vessel, your muscle, whatever that thing is. I think it's meant to be after all those ingredients are put in the same pot.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? It's like but also there's a thing inside of me that I think I've never been one to give up. You know, I've never been we were poor kids, like we didn't have money growing up. And I think the cool thing about my upbringing was that my parents always supported me no matter what I did, no matter what it looked like. We didn't have to be winners. They didn't know anything. They had nothing to compare to. You know what I mean? My mom
Right.
was like, "You're the best." And I was like, "But I'm second seat saxophone. I'm not first seat." And she's like, "You're still the best." And I'm like, "Okay." You know, and Stephen Nedlin, who was sitting next to me, who was saxophone first seat. Like, I think about him now, and I think about all the times we talked to each other, first and second seat, and we still were the best together. Like, we couldn't have done it without each other. You know,
Yeah.
these little kids growing up in school. But yes, I was second seat saxophone. I was second, you know, in gymnastics. There was my friend Sabrina Candelaria, who was, you know, she was the all around champ. I excelled at floor and vault, but I never was all around. Like I never was the best, which is maybe why I started diving by myself because I was the best because I was the only.
There is something really in that though. There really is something in that perseverance.
It's so funny. Yeah.
In that perseverance, in that sense of being like, I know I'm different. I know I got to make a way that's going to fit me. I got to find my own lane. That awareness. I mean, I think because I know you so well, I didn't know you when we were children, but I feel like I do know you as a child, and
Mhm.
you would have. It would be impossible for you not to always want to be the best and strive to be the best and work hard and be great. I think it's just in your DNA, it's in your blood. It's a lot of what makes Candice Coke who she is.
I appreciate that. I think that's a true statement. I think my you know, the women in my family were so strong. You know, my grandmothers and my mom and my sister and my aunts, like they were formidable women, you know. And I look back at my life, like none of the women in my life were like, I'm gonna use my I'm like no harm, no foul to people that do. I'm gonna use my sexuality to get ahead. I'm gonna use the like my grandmother came from Jamaica. She was a scientist at Columbia University. My aunts were bankers and financial advisors from Jamaica. My dad was an architect and an electrical engineer. You know, and my grandmother on my mom's side, like she like built furniture from scratch. You know what I mean? And raised four kids and you know worked on the ships back in the days in New York City and you know my mom, you know, worked as many jobs as she could. My mom raised two interracial kids in the early 80s by herself. You know, these women weren't meant to give up. So I
Yeah.
think that they, without saying it, they set a strong foundation to be proud of who we are, respectful of who we are, and fight for what we deserve. So that's, I think, where I operate from. And then give back when you can, and give back when you can't. You know,
Yeah, absolutely.
um,
It's amazing that you were able to receive that. You know, of course, you're at the supple, wise age of your mid 20s where you know come to the awareness to that it's right to where you are, and you know you've been able to look back and see all of that's created you. You know, and not everybody is so fortunate to be able to use that as a catapult to success. I understand that we are all in different places in our journey. We are all dealing with life as best as we can, and that's really the whole point of this. Is because I am inspired by you every time we have a conversation, every time I see you, and
ditto.
that I want people to know like rejection doesn't have to be the thing that halts your progress in life.
Sometimes
As
it's the thing that makes you catapult forward.
I think it is most of the time. You know, I just don't know if that information is out there enough for people to actually be able to receive and perceive it that way, depending on their circumstances, whatever's brought them to where they are.
Yeah,
You know, everyone is different. Like I've said before, and I'll say it probably every single time I have this conversation. I'm not from a third world country, right?
right,
Like I don't understand those hardships. I
right.
only understand my hardships, and my hardships that I overcome every day and in my life are all that I can handle, and I'm grateful that I am strong enough to do that. Thankfully, I am where I'm supposed to be, and I think what I'm trying to say there is we all are where we're supposed to be, and where we are, there's opportunity for us to still succeed.
Yeah, 1,000%. 1,000%. Like, I'll give you a really perfect example of like when I look back at what could have wrecked me, like I was married at one point in my life. I met this guy and met him when I was young, and we got married in Italy, and it was the most beautiful, beautiful wedding I could have ever. A movie. It was like a movie.
Dream.
It was beautiful. It was perfect. But the relationship was not. So it's like, he cheated on me with multiple women. I didn't find this out till years later. I had my instincts and my intuitions, but I was also told that I was crazy and all the things and all the things and all the things. And money was borrowed and money was bled and lots of things that happened behind my back. And he eventually got together with one of my closest friends at the time. She was a close friend of mine, and they cheated on me behind my back and
Found love.
What?
Found love.
I use that term loosely. They found each other. Let's just say that.
There you go.
Found each other. And I remember people going, how did you survive that? How are you okay? And I'm like, that was the best thing that ever happened to me, because that person, I'm not frozen, I'm pausing for dramatic effect.
Okay, I was like, what's going on with this connection?
I would never, ever, ever want that person in my life now. And I swore that was my guy at the time. I swore that was the person I was supposed to spend the rest of my life with, And when I look back now, I'm like, thank God he was a cheater. Thank God they found each other, because I wouldn't want to have a child with that person. And the stress that would have caused in my life, there's no way. I probably wouldn't be here today.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. It is a very natural and easy thing to be able to reflect on that type of rejection and be like, that's why it happened, right? That's the whole point of this.
Right.
And sometimes for myself, I don't know if I'm just like, oh, that wasn't meant to be for me, or if I really trust that, or, I think at the end of the day, if it's a coping mechanism, it's working. Like if that's what I need to do just to be like, that didn't happen for me because it wasn't meant to be. And I could be like, I think that's what we do, especially being artists and getting rejected all the time. It becomes a kind of that safe space for me, because it's that part I can control.
Right.
I can control the way that I feel after that, and find peace in knowing like that just wasn't for me. But sometimes I wonder if yeah.
What do you wonder?
Plain and simple. Was that, what would my life have been like if I wasn't rejected from that circumstance? And more often than not, and 99.99% of the time, this is me just trying to be a little cynical because I think people will appreciate that, is you find out that you're really grateful in the end that it didn't work out.
Yeah.
You really are. Like, you look back, you see it, you already did what I was going to ask you to do, is be like, I was going to be like, what would you imagine your life being like with that person if it wouldn't have never made sense? It just wouldn't have.
I would have probably been like sedating myself on a regular basis with prescription drugs.
Right.
Because the anxiety would have been so high, and I would have been a disaster of a person, and probably not a nice person.
Yeah.
Energy rubs off on us, and like, that's the deal. But you said something really interesting. You said to reflect on rejection, right? Which is what we're doing, right? So, like, really, when you look back at it, the one job, the thing that we do get when we get the thing, it's so great. It feels so good. And we're like, oh yeah, it finally showed up, right? but that job is over. And then we have to deal with the same roller coaster again. So here's the thing. All we can do is go, was meant to be, move on. Was meant to be, move on. Reflect on, did I do a good job? Did I do my best job? Did I do my best? No. Okay, well, there's a lesson in there for me.
I can grow.
Yeah, I got to be better next time. Did I do my best? I did. I went above and beyond. Sometimes you go above and beyond and you still get that rejection. You're like, well, why did I even waste my time doing all that work and I'm still getting rejected, right? I had to do that for me. I had to show myself what I'm willing to do. I've had to show the universe what I'm willing to do because that energy goes somewhere else. I believe that. I really do. At this point in my life, I believe that the effort you put in doesn't always come out in the same way that you think it does, but it does come out in another way.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. And that is such a great thing for anybody listening to this that is an artist, especially in the entertainment industry. You know, you can't control it. You can do your best work. You can learn to be better and still be better and still not get the job. This entertainment business is so much more than about talent. It is a business at the end of the day as well. And it's
Yeah.
really just about how you maintain yourself spiritually and mentally in this process to be able to still pursue and do what you love. And if it ever gets to a point where it's not possible because you are so down, then that means that you have every right to take a second
Yeah. Take a breath.
and take a breath and do what you need to do to get back into that space and whatever that space is for you. Sometimes that is you changing into a different lane and to taking you down a different road.
Yeah.
Sometimes that is taking you into a different lane that is a shortcut down the road. Whatever it is, just find peace. That is the most important thing. And if it is,
That's a hard thing to do, to find peace, though.
especially when you are rejected all the time, how can you not think like, this isn't right for me, I am wrong? Even when you feel great, you still don't get it. You know, even if you're not the
Yep.
business aspect that they're looking for right now, like there's so much out of your control. But
Yep.
when you do find peace because you've chosen to find it, then you can do what you said and trust that you are exactly where you're supposed to be. You can trust in the process.
I'm
Once
sorry,
you
I'm looking
find,
down. I'm trying to find this movie that I just watched last night, which I think is very, very funny, but like ironic. It was that Nicolas Cage movie where it's like the unbearable weight of being super talented or something like that. Do you know what I'm talking about? Hold on.
not the vampire one, is it?
No, it's hold on. The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. That was the name of the movie. First of all, I watched it last night. It was hysterical. It was hysterical. Pedro Pascal's in it as well. So it's Nick Cage and Pedro Pascal, who I grew up with, by the way. And, you know, I watched him get rejected thousands of times when he was, you know, when we were in New York. And look at him now. I mean, I always knew that kid was not a kid. He's not a kid anymore. But like,
When he was a kid. Yeah.
he was destined for greatness because I saw it in him. I saw his resilience. I saw his tenacity, hard work, you know, just ability to fight through. He's also an Aries, by the way. So I'm just gonna say I'm an Aries as well. But we fall down 1,000 times and we get back up because that's what kids do. But in this movie, it was really funny because Nicolas Cage plays himself in a movie. And in the beginning of the movie, he's like talking to his agent and he's like, I want to read for this part. I'm going to read for this part. And then the agent calls him and he's like, they really loved you, but you know, they went another way. And he was like, I'm quitting acting. Right. And you're like, that
I've never
thing,
done that. Never done
I
that.
don't know. I don't even know what he's talking about.
That's
But
bad writing.
That thing happens no matter what level you're at, right? So you're up
Yes.
here, and now you've got this film that you want to do with Marty Scorsese, because I can call him Marty now because we're friends, because I've earned that right? Not me, but you know, when you're there. And then you read Marty, and then he chooses somebody else, and you're like, am I not good enough? Like, there's always another level to get rejected from. So let's practice it when you're down here, so when you get up here, you know that there's more space and time for the other opportunities to come in. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
The movie,
Absolutely. Yeah.
and I highly recommend you watch it.
I'm looking forward to watching it. You know how I feel about Pedro Pascal. I love
Yeah.
I love his work. I think he's awesome. I love his story. I relate to it.
Yeah.
It's inspiring. He inspires me with his life,
Yeah.
and so I'm definitely looking forward to watching that. But yeah, it is how you handle it. It
Yeah.
is how you handle it, and it's really the only way to handle it in a healthy way is to accept rejection.
I
Like,
mean,
go out there, put yourself out there, go get rejected. Dare to call yourself a reject. That I am my goal is to be able for you to be like, I want you to wear my merch and be like, reject, and
yeah.
have that reject shirt on, and you are living your best life, because I think it's really hard not to really like fully be able to immerse yourself in joy and in your best without falling or hitting that low point and being able to get up from it. There is some type of energy that follows from defeat when you are courageous enough to stand up on your 2 feet again.
Yeah, and I think this also, we have icons that we look up to in our day and age, right? So if you can imagine, Oprah's been rejected 1,000 times, but look
Right.
at her now. You know what I mean? What makes her different from the rest?
Yeah,
To now,
the mentality.
mentality to now, but that's the thing, right? There's a
Mhm.
there's a thing that you have to have a belief system about because I'm like, if Angelina Jolie can get rejected, I can too. Like we put these people on pedestals, and I get that because they've made their way, and we see them all the time. So we compare ourselves to these higher ups that we think are different than us, but they're really not because they've had to deal with this in different forms. Because, like you said before, you don't live in a third world country. You only know what's based from your life on. They only know what's based from their life on as well. So,
Yes.
you know, the Oprahs have been rejected. The Obamas have been rejected. Um, I'm sure Angelina Jolie has been rejected. Brad Pitt's been rejected. So it's like, what does it all really mean? And then we watch the things like we love to watch because that time of year comes and we watch the Oscars for the outfits and we feel like there's that underdog. We're like, let's watch that underdog get that award. And then you find somebody that has a speech and they're like, never give up. Right. That's what's been happening a lot more, I think, these days is because there's more space and doorways being open for the rejects because we don't want to see the same thing over and over again. We want to see diversity. We want to see gender bending. We want to see the heart of all humanity. And now there are more opportunities being created for everybody to have maybe a chance, a little bit more of a chance. So when you watch those speeches and they go, never give up. I thought I was never going to be here on this stage. That's real for them. So that gives me hope going, yeah, 3 more years, 3 more years, you know?
Yeah. Always a little limit, always a time expiration date, and that always it's not like food. I never eat food that is expired. Ask anybody that knows me. But for some reason, it's really easy for me to change my expiration date on my career in life.
Really funny. That's true. Like, I'm
Really
not eating
easy.
that was expired yesterday, but like,
Yeah.
because that's
Yeah.
because that's because you love it though. That's because we love it, and that's part of who we are.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think so. It's just I think I know I'm overusing the word, but it's just the purpose of us having this conversation, and it's really it's serving. It's like, if I wouldn't have had all the rejection that it wouldn't allow me to really just stand in who I am authentically.
And have you where you
Um,
are right now.
yeah, which where I am right now is not where I expected to be or wanted to be at my age, but physically,
Podcast reaches a lot of people and then makes you a gajillionaire. Who knows?
well, yes, what I was going to say is exactly that is I am now doing this. I am having these types of conversations, and that is authentic, and this is only possible because I have been able to get up over a trillion times, it feels like, and broaden my perspective and reflect on the rejection, because I believe that when you find clarity in life, you can step into who you are authentically. And without rejection, you can't actually achieve that clarity. You need to hear a no sometimes.
Oh yeah.
So,
I mean, not poking fun at anybody at all, But let's talk about Britney Spears, for example. You know what I mean? Like, you know, I actually was like going down a rabbit hole the other day. I'm like, this girl was like America's sweetheart when Hit Me Baby One More Time came out. Like everyone was like, oh my God, yes, we love pop Britney Spears. Like, and she was lovable and she was fun. And, you know, listen, it's not just her. I've watched the Whitney Houston movie and like all these wonderfully talented people that are part of a machine, right? That people just go, yes, yes, more, yes, yes, more, yes, you're good, more, yes, yes, more. And they're not hearing the no's, they're only hearing the yeses. And so, with that being said, decisions, excuse me, sometimes go askew. Decisions sometimes start to be going, well, I guess I can do anything I want. I've never been told no.
Yes.
Right? And that creates a false sense of reality. And what happens with a false sense of reality down the line when you're in the real world, like for example, another like skew off of that, we're in a day and age of influencers and I think that's great. Make money however you can, influence, do your thing. But if you're influencing from like the ages of 15 to 30 because you're beautiful and look good, and then you're 50 and life changes, what skill set do you have now? You know, when the world looks at you and they go, well, you're not cute enough to sell this cream on Instagram anymore. What is that? That is where the rejection is going to happen for that person down the line when you're older. And it's unfortunate, I feel like, because if you haven't had the practice as a youngster, it's a lot more devastating when you've had all this success and then you plateau and then you fall off the cliff. You've got nothing to compare it to.
Yeah.
Right? So you're like, what's wrong with everybody else? Why is this not working for me all of a sudden? Because things change.
Well, I don't know about you, but for me, like I had to have that conversation with myself in my 20s and my 30s. You're not just the hot guy anymore. Where, have you been avoiding your essence and your core and your source just because you were able to use that because that's all it was necessary for? And I think as an artist, especially as an actor, especially when you've been the ingenue of a film like I have been, you think like that's all you need. And it is a lot that all these kids need when they're in their 20s and their teens in Hollywood. It's all about good looks, right? The talent doesn't really need to fit there.
Right, because how much talent do you really have? I mean, as a kid, you're not experienced in the world. Some kids are like, we see some actors and like, oh, that kid's got a deep soul. You know what I mean?
Like,
there's some where you're like, I get it, you're a child actor, and but I think for me, this is also a very interesting part of who I am. You've been in the business since you were very young, right? And that feels natural. You book a job, you're on a commercial, you're in a movie, and that's happening while you're young. You don't know any different, For me, I was like the weird kid in school. We didn't have any money. And I remember when I was at NYU, I was like, I need to get a job. I need to get a job so I can like support myself through school and also like have some fun and meet some new people. And one of the first things that I did was got a backstage and there was an audition for the Knicks City Dancers. Now, I've never been a trained dancer, but I was like, I'm going to go because I love the Knicks. Patrick Ewing is Jamaican. So is my dad. And this is going to be fun. You know what I mean? Like that was my resume.
Yeah, that's all you need sometimes is that motivation. That simple.
I was like, I just want to go have fun. I want to see what this is like. I was open for the experience. So I went to the audition and there were like 500 girls there and they were gorgeous and tumbling and turning and all the things. And I just happened to have the right look, being young, right? And I could tumble. And I got called to the callback. And I remember going in the next day and there were 6 slots left because the Knicks City Dancers was only 16 girls and there were 10 girls already from the last season. They were like, there's only 6 spots left. And I was like, all right, cool. And like, I did the thing and I got the job. And I was like, weird. Okay, but fun, right?
Weird.
I was like, who's going to teach me how to do a double turn? Somebody hook me up.
And there was no YouTube to watch back then, kids. So, it's a different world.
Different world. And yeah. I struggled a bit. Like I almost got fired. And then some of the girls took me under their wing and they were like, let's work together. Let's do some things. So the point of the story is I digress for a second. So year 1, year 2, I was a Knicks City dancer. It was great. We would come out of Madison Square Garden. They'd be like, Knicks City Dancers. Oh my God. Blah, 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 blah. We get into clubs for free. We get bottle service for free at the China Club in New York City. Yeah. And then I remember I wasn't a Nick City dancer anymore.
Alert, age alert, age alert.
The China Club was very Puff Daddy was there.
It was popular in the 1800s, yes.
In 1914, the China Club was popular. But I remember when I wasn't dancing on the Knicks anymore, and I would still go to the games because my friends were still dancing, and I would walk out of the garden and nobody knew who I was. They didn't recognize me. They could care less because I wasn't carrying that MSG bag and I didn't have full makeup on and Knicks colors, whatever. So I quickly learned that the attention came from an idea. The idea that I was a Knicks fan. So I was important for a second. And then when I was like, I need to focus on this, I wasn't important anymore. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. So I knew right off the bat that this fame game was subjective.
Correct. Yeah. 100%.
Mm-hmm. And then my second job was getting this gig for Michael Jackson because of one of the beautiful women that were on the Knicks who taught me how to dance. She was like, she had back surgery. She was like, take my spot, go to the audition, be me. This is before digital submissions. And I was like, okay, I'll bring and she was like, just go as me. It's fine. No one's going to, da-da-da. Of course I go there with my headshot. They're like, we don't know who you are. I don't know what you're talking about. You're not Allison. And I was like, I am. And I wound up staying.
The cojones to even do that, though.
Oh, I've crashed
that in itself.
I've crashed so many auditions, and I booked all the ones that I've crashed back in the day. I booked my first Gap commercial here in LA when I crashed it. My ex was auditioning for it, and I was like, I'm gonna audition too. I put down his commercial agent. I booked the job, and the commercial agent was like, who are you? And you booked the job, but can we sign you? And I was like, 1,000%. But the moral of that story also is I remember I was in one of my best friend Jamie King's hotel rooms. The call came in that the Michael Jackson special got canceled. And I was in his room and I was like, this is the end of the world. Like, how am I supposed to recover from this? The biggest job, dancing for Michael Jackson, like the biggest start of my childhood. We rehearsed for 6 months. We did the dress rehearsal. And then day before the show, it's done. And I'm like, what else is there? What else is there after this? And I remember Jamie goes, oh, honey, this is just the beginning. This is just how it goes.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, there'll be so many opportunities after this one. And I was like, okay, well, I guess so, And I just remember that feeling of complete and utter defeat. But I look back now and I go, of course that happened the way that happened.
Yeah. I mean, in my bright outlook on life, I think, what a great opportunity to have that training. If not for that training, it wouldn't have gotten you to the staple entertainer that you are. Like that pressure cooker of being in that environment, like the universe had your back and it was like, this is much more than you could ever imagine for it to be for you. It's going to be so instrumental in your career. And obviously it was. It didn't go the way you thought it was going to go.
Never does.
But that sets you up for so much more. Speaking of Jamie, I'm going to have him on too one of these times. I'm going to reach out to him because he is such an incredible human being who has succeeded so much and faced so much rejection to even be where he is too.
Yeah, I think he would be a great person to interview as well with all the stories. But yeah, when I look back at like it almost was like another lifetime. All that stuff, that foundation set was like, I'm like, oh my God, and now I think I'm in a space of my life where I'm like, again, it's like that, the adage of now, like I don't chase, I attract, right? So really, really, really like not encompassing or like believing in, but like digesting the idea that's what's meant for me is meant for me.
Yeah.
Like really, really embracing that. I think that's where I am now. And all that got me to this point. And now I get to have fun again. Because I'll tell you this, Gus. The thing that always comes back to me when I generate the most success is when I have fun.
Absolutely.
And when you put the weight of like I need this and I have to get like it doesn't feel good. Like I don't want to do that to myself anymore because whatever the outcome is going to be, the outcome is going to be. But who I am along the journey is important.
You have to be right like you are right now to be able to even attack and be in life like that. It's really that simple, especially as an artist. And that's why you will continue to do amazing things. That's why your career, even though you have done and do so many incredible things, is just getting started because you have chosen the mentality to progression, to progress. You have chosen to continue to fight. You've changed the perspective of rejection to being halting, to rejection to being something that is accelerating in your life. And you innately do that. And I feel like most of the people I'm going to interview, which might be a little off, I think we're born with that innate trait. But I believe you can learn that from seeing it and understanding it through people. Just like I can learn something that wasn't innately to me by doing, the latter of what I just said in a different circumstance and situation.
Yeah. And did it like this and the reverse as well. Like I learned something from you a couple months ago and I'm like, oh, that's not in my nature, but it is if I decide to put it into my nature. If I decide to share it with someone else. So I think also it's really, 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 really important, especially in this day and age, in this time of our lives, as we are as in our, I don't want to say middle age, because we're not middle age, we're like before, but like we're in the chapter of our life. We're in the prime. Yeah, let's say prime. Choose your surroundings wisely, like who you're taking advice from. Like I know that when certain people say things to me, it's because they have my best interest at heart. Like really want me to excel, really want me to succeed, believe in me. And you have to know who your audience is because people will say things to you and you go, oh, I'll take that advice, but they might not want your best interest at heart. You know what I mean?
Me in my 20s and early 30s a million times over.
Yeah. So now, like, having that core group of friendships and mentors and, like, I don't want to say icons, but people that you look up to, whether they be your friends or people that you watch a master class on, like going, I would take advice from that person. I always go, I'm not going to take banking advice from someone who's broke.
That part.
I'm not going to take relationship advice from someone who has been single for 25 years.
Right.
Yeah.
Don't listen to me when it comes to relationships.
Not you. But you've been good at that. But you know what I'm saying? Like you take what you need, you take what you can hear, but also, you know what I mean?
Like the general consensus of that is it's very, very simply laid out. Just
yeah.
For sure.
So I'm looking forward to being rejected more, I think, in the future. See what I can do with that.
Good. I want you, well, you don't really have a choice. It's what you do. I'm sure you'll probably get rejected. Well, I know the strike is making things slow right now. But yes, I'm sure you'll be rejected again maybe later this week or won't, but you will be putting yourself out there for that regardless of it. Is there anything that you have coming up that you would like to talk about or share or to be on the watch out for you or your social medias? Do people like you to keep up to date with what you are doing? I mean, if you don't know, she's already on a TV show and she's just look her up. I mean, she can tell you stuff.
Film's on Apple TV right now, which is super exciting.
What is it called?
It's called Malum. If you like a horror film, and like it's cool because like actually Jamie the other day he's like Candice, I was watching television and FBI International was on and I heard your voice and that was on. He's like, and then I went to like my main screen of like what to watch and like your film. He's like, I saw this horror film and like your name was on the bottom. He's like, you were like on my television twice tonight. Like, that's really cool. And I'm like, oh, that is really cool. Like, that's cool. So FBI International will probably rerun because we are in a strike very soon. Malum is a horror film that's on Apple TV right now, which was really cool and fun to do. I am currently working on a project of my own. I'm working on a docuseries right now. Hopefully it will get picked up by a major network and we can shine some light on some other people that have created some amazing things in this industry. But also, I am in developmental stages of a YouTube channel for children, and I think that that's something that really needs to be done for myself. So
I
um,
like that.
we'll see what happens in the next few months with that. What else? What else? Social media, I'm really bad at, but you can follow me on Candice Coke Official on Instagram. I also have a small account called The Real Candyland where I want to start. Um, I'm horrible in the best way about buying things off of the internet, whether they be products or clothing. And I want to actually like do the trial and error of things because I feel like we buy a lot of things and some things really don't work and some things do work. So I want to start like doing a little Instagram tutorials about like what I've found have been super, worth spending my money on and what hasn't been worth spending.
Love that.
And that's important for people. I don't want people to get bamboozled on regular. So I'm gonna start doing
Right.
that, Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's it. Who knows
Awesome.
what else is to come?
I mean, you are in the mix for a lot of great things consistently.
Yeah.
You've paved your way in this industry, you've earned your spot to where you are to be getting in the rooms that you're getting into for these shows that we see everywhere. And yeah, it's just a matter of time before you book your next series regular or your next film because you choose to continually face rejection in the face and say, "What's up?"
What's
and
next? Yeah.
"What's next? Let's do this." You don't back off from a challenge, and
I really don't. I think I thrive on the challenge. That's just my nature. But
you had to. You've been challenged your whole life. Well, not that you've had to. Thank God that is, or whatever. Thankfully, that is your innate nature, because that's
yeah.
what that has supported you so tremendously in your life.
Thank you for saying that because we forget sometimes.
Hmm.
We walk through the day, we walk through our lives with the same shield on, and sometimes we forget to see ourselves. And you being a person in my life that's been such a wonderful like trajectory since our oh my god reconnection,
Oh my God!
that spiritual store in Silver Lake. Like we were at some crystal shop,
Yeah,
and I mean, we'd seen each other for years, back and forth, but like that was the real like start of this creation. And I'm like, again, see, everything happens in the divine timing.
yeah, absolutely.
So
Yeah, I could imagine my life without you, friend. I love you.
ditto.
Thank you
And
for. Mm,
I'm proud of you. So
thank you.
so many different ways. And I'm always going to be here to support you and have your back. So I wish you the best of luck
Likewise.
with
You're
this podcast.
stuck with me. Sorry. God, if they only knew.
I'm
If
going
they
to put
only knew.
I was like, you'll edit that out.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll see where this goes. I have no idea what I'm doing. I
Okay.
just felt inclined through my spirit to start discussions on something, and rejection is something that I am very accustomed to in every area, like I've said several times on this thing. And I think you should use the thing that you've been fed the most to your advantage. And I don't know if this is going to be 2 episodes or 5 or 1,000, whatever it's going to be. I just genuinely hope that it falls on the right ears. That's all I want.
It already has.
So thank you. Thank you for using your voice and doing that.
Baby.
I love you.
I love you too. Now that we're done,
And scene.
and namaste.
Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, comment, like, and share. But most importantly, go out there today and get rejected, you beautiful rejects. I am Gustavo Victor Carr, and this is Rejection and Reflection. Until next time.